Look up, not at the lights, but at the gaps between them. We have spent the entirety of our biological history conditioned to believe that the points of light in the night sky are the protagonists of the cosmic story. We see a star, and we invent a god. We see a constellation, and we map a destiny. But this is the first and most fundamental deception of our senses. The light is not the story. The light is a thin, fragile skin stretched over an abyss so profound that the human mind cannot truly inhabit the thought of it without fracturing. When you stare into the night, you are not looking at a presence. You are looking at a history of departures. You are looking at the ghosts of fires that may have long since guttered out, their final screams traveling through the freezing dark for 1 billion years, just to strike your retina for a fraction of a second. This is the starting point of our journey, a realization that our primary contact with reality is based on an illusion of presence. If you find yourself drawn to these shadows, to the truths that wait behind the flicker, then perhaps you belong here, with us, as we venture beyond the universe. By subscribing to this shared descent, you are acknowledging that the surface of things is no longer enough. You are choosing to look past the firelight and into the cold mechanics of the dark. The universe is not a place. It is a process of becoming unreachable. Every moment you sit in silence, the space between you and the furthest reaches of the observable horizon is stretching. It is not merely that things are moving away. The fabric of reality itself is being manufactured in the gaps. We are living in a house where the hallways are growing longer every second, and the doors at the end of those halls are slowly swinging shut. Eventually, they will lock. There is a mathematical certainty to our eventual isolation that we rarely discuss in polite society because it feels like a death sentence, and in a cosmic sense, it is. We are currently living in the golden age of astronomy, a brief, flickering window where the light from distant galaxies can still reach our eyes. But this window is closing. There will come a time, trillions of years from now, when the expansion of space will have pushed every other galaxy beyond our event horizon. Future astronomers, if they exist, will look at the sky and see nothing but an eternal, obsidian wall. They will conclude, with perfect scientific evidence, that they are the only island of matter in an infinite sea of nothingness. They will be wrong, of course, but the universe will have hidden the evidence so perfectly that the truth will be indistinguishable from a lie. This leads us to a more unsettling thought. If the universe is capable of hiding its true nature from the future, what has it already hidden from us? We assume we are seeing the beginning of the story because we can see the afterglow of the Big Bang. We see the cosmic microwave background radiation and we think we have found the wall of the nursery. But what if that wall is merely the limit of our sight, not the limit of existence? What if we are the future astronomers of a previous era's collapse? We feel like we are at the dawn of intelligence, looking out at a pristine, empty cosmos waiting to be filled. But the scale of time is a heavy weight. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. That is a number we say, but we do not feel. If you were to represent the age of the universe as a 24-hour day, human civilization has existed for less than the final second. We are a heartbeat at the end of a long, dark night. To assume that we are the first to look up and wonder is not just arrogant, it is statistically improbable to the point of absurdity. And yet when we look out, we see silence. The great silence is often framed as a puzzle to be solved, a technical glitch in our search for neighbors. We call it the Fermi Paradox. We ask, where is everybody? With the playful curiosity of a child playing hide and seek. But as you sit in the dark and let the scale of the cosmos sink in, the question begins to lose its playfulness. It starts to feel like a threat. If the ingredients for life are common, and they are, and if the time required for intelligence to emerge is relatively short compared to the age of the stars, and it is, then the void should be screaming. It should be a chaotic, crowded radio glare of competing civilizations, Dyson spheres, and stellar engineering. Instead, we find a silence so absolute that it feels intentional. It is the silence of a graveyard, or worse, the silence of a predator holding its breath. Consider the Bode's void. It is a region of space approximately 330 million light-years in diameter. By all the laws of physics and the distribution of matter we understand, it should contain thousands of galaxies. If you were to stand in the center of the Bode's void and look out, you would see nothing. Pure, unadulterated blackness in every direction. If the Milky Way were located at the center of this void, we would not have known other galaxies existed until the 1960s. We would have lived our entire history believing the stars in our own sky were the sum total of reality. This is not a hypothetical horror. This is a physical reality for any intelligence that might emerge in such a place. It makes one wonder about our own position. We see galaxies, yes. We see a web of matter. But what are we not seeing because of our specific location in time and space? What cosmic structures are so vast that they appear to us as the laws of physics rather than the artifacts of something else? We perceive the universe through a narrow slit of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our eyes are tuned to the output of a specific yellow star, a biological coincidence that we mistake for a universal standard. If we could see in radio waves, the sky would be a frantic, pulsing web of energy. If we could see in gamma rays, we would see the violent, explosive deaths of giants. But even with our most advanced telescopes, we are only seeing the luminous matter, the stuff that glows. This constitutes about 5% of the universe. The rest, the overwhelming majority of everything that exists, is dark matter and dark energy. We call them dark not because we know what they are, but as a polite way of admitting we are blind. We are like children trying to understand a cathedral by looking at the dust motes dancing in a single sunbeam. We see the dust, and we think we understand the architecture, but the architecture is made of the shadows. There is a specific kind of dread that comes from realizing that your senses are not just limited, but fundamentally deceptive. We perceive time as a linear flow, a sequence of cause and effect that allows us to feel a sense of agency. But in the grand architecture of general relativity, time is just another dimension, a frozen landscape where the past, present, and future coexist, like the pages of a book already written. The now we experience is not a universal moment. It is a localized hallucination. If you were to travel at near light speeds, or linger near the horizon of a black hole, your now would drift away from the now of Earth by centuries. This means that the present has no objective reality. The universe does not have a heartbeat. It is a static, four-dimensional block of spacetime, and our consciousness is merely a needle tracking across a record that has already been pressed. The music is finished. We are just hearing it for the first time. This collapse of the now brings us back to the problem of the others. If time is a landscape, then all the civilizations that have ever existed or will ever exist are currently there, somewhere in the dark. So why do we not see their footprints? We look for radio signals, assuming that an advanced mind would use the same primitive vibration of electrons that we discovered a century ago. It is like looking for a smoke signal in a world that has moved on to fiber optics. But the problem goes deeper than technology. It is a problem of scale. To a civilization that has existed for 1,000,000 years, a mere blink in cosmic time, a planet like Earth might not be a place of interest. It might be a resource. Or worse, it might be a nuisance. Imagine an ant colony built into the side of a highway. The ants are busy, intelligent in their own way, and deeply concerned with the politics of their mound. They have no concept of the highway. They have no concept of the internal combustion engine or the global supply chain that moves the trucks over their heads. They don't even see the trucks as objects. They see them as weather, as vibrations in the earth, as a periodic, inexplicable roar. The humans driving the trucks are not hiding from the ants. They aren't in a conspiracy of silence. They simply do not care. The ants are so far beneath the threshold of human interest that no effort is made to communicate, and no effort is made to avoid crushing them. Our search for extraterrestrial intelligence assumes that we are, at the very least, a recognizable colony. But what if we are just the bacteria on the ants? The deeper we look into the mechanics of the universe, the more it seems designed to keep things apart. The speed of light is not just a speed limit, it is a causal barrier. It is the maximum speed at which meaning can travel. Because the universe is expanding, and because the distances are so vast, most of the universe is already causally disconnected from us. There are galaxies we can see today that we could never reach, even if we turned ourselves into pure light and headed toward them right now. They are receding faster than light can travel. They are effectively in a different universe. This means that reality is fracturing. It is a glass bowl that has been dropped, and the shards are flying away from each other into an infinite void. We are on one shard, looking at the others, watching them disappear. This creates a feeling of cosmic claustrophobia. We are trapped in a bubble of light that is shrinking in real time. Every year, a few more stars slip over the horizon. Every year, the observable universe becomes a smaller fraction of the actual universe. We are being quarantined by the very laws of physics. And this leads to a disturbing question. Why? Is this expansion just a neutral fact of thermodynamics? Or is it a mechanism? If you wanted to ensure that no two intelligences could ever truly threaten one another, or that no civilization could ever consume the entire energy budget of the cosmos, you would build a universe exactly like this one. You would make it so that space itself grows faster than any engine can travel. You would ensure that every spark of mind is born in a cage of distance, But even within our cage, the silence persists. We have scanned the stars for the signatures of Kardashev Type 3 civilizations, entities capable of harnessing the energy of an entire galaxy. Such a civilization would be impossible to hide. Their waste heat would glow in the infrared like a beacon. We have looked at thousands of galaxies. We have found nothing. Every single one appears to be a natural object, governed by the cold, indifferent laws of entropy. This leaves us with two equally terrifying possibilities. The first is that we are truly alone. The first, the only, and the last. The second is that something happens to intelligence before it reaches that scale. Something stops it. We call this the Great Filter. It is the idea that there is a wall in the evolution of life that is almost impossible to climb. It could be behind us. Perhaps the transition from single-celled life to complex organisms is so unlikely that it only happened here. If that's the case, we are the luckiest accidents in history. But if the filter is ahead of us, then our future is a graveyard. It means that every civilization reaches a certain point, the discovery of the atom, the creation of artificial intelligence, the manipulation of the vacuum, and then it vanishes. The silence is not a lack of life. It is the result of a recurring catastrophe. We are walking down a path littered with the bones of those who went before us, and we are congratulating ourselves on how far we've come, unaware that the cliff is just around the next bend. As we move deeper into this realization, the discovery of our place in the cosmos begins to curdle into curiosity, and that curiosity is quickly being replaced by doubt. We doubt our importance. We doubt our senses. We doubt the very stability of the ground we stand on. We are living on a thin crust of cooled rock, orbiting a nuclear furnace, drifting through a vacuum that wants to boil our blood. And that vacuum is not empty. It is a seething ocean of virtual particles, popping in and out of existence. A quantum foam that holds more energy in a single cubic centimeter than is contained in all the stars of the visible sky. We are balancing on the edge of a knife. There is a concept in physics called the false vacuum decay. It suggests that our universe might not be in its lowest energy state. It might be metastable, like a ball sitting on a ledge halfway down a mountain. If a single point in space were to tunnel to a lower energy state, it would trigger a bubble of true vacuum that would expand at the speed of light. Inside this bubble, the laws of physics would be different. Atoms would fall apart. Gravity would cease to function as it does. Because the bubble travels at light speed, you would never see it coming. One moment, you are reading a screen. The next, the fundamental constants of reality have shifted, and you, and the earth, and the sun simply cease to be. There is no pain, no warning, and no record left behind. It is the ultimate erasure, and this is where the unease begins to take root. We look at the universe and we see laws, we see constants, we see stability. But these are just patterns we've observed in our tiny 1-second window of existence. We have no reason to believe they are permanent. We are like a man who has been falling from a skyscraper for 30 stories and concludes, because he hasn't hit the ground yet, that he is flying. He is gathering data, he is measuring the wind resistance, he is formulating a law of constant descent. He is perfectly scientific, and he is perfectly doomed. The scale of what we don't know is not just a gap in our maps. It is a fundamental disconnect between the human mind and the reality it inhabits. We evolved to find fruit in the forest and avoid predators on the savanna. Our brains are optimized for the middle scale, meters, kilometers, years, decades. We are not built to comprehend the picometer or the light year. When we try to think about the hidden architecture of reality, we are trying to use a tool designed for survival to perform a task of pure abstraction. It is like trying to play a symphony on a rock. We can make a noise, but we aren't hearing the music. This is why the universe feels so alien when we look at it through the lens of mathematics. The math tells us things that our intuition refuses to accept. It tells us that particles can be in two places at once. It tells us that space can warp and time can stretch. It tells us that empty space is actually a solid, rigid structure that can be dented by the weight of a star. We accept these things as facts, but we don't feel them. We live in a world of discovery, but the more we discover, the less the world feels like home. It starts to feel like a simulation, or a dream, or a prison. And if it is a prison, who are the wardens? This is not a question of religion, but of logic. If it is possible to create a simulation of a universe, then the number of simulated universes would vastly outnumber the single, real one. Statistically, the odds that we are in the base reality are billions to 1. This is the simulation hypothesis, and while it sounds like science fiction, it is a serious topic of debate among cosmologists. If we are in a simulation, the great silence makes perfect sense. Why would the simulators waste processing power on millions of alien civilizations when they only need to simulate one? Why make the universe infinite when you can just make it look infinite by wrapping the edges of the light? But the simulation theory is almost too comforting. It implies a creator, even if that creator is just a bored teenager in a higher dimension. It implies a purpose. The more disturbing reality is that there is no simulator. There is just a blind, uncaring machine of entropy, churning through every possible combination of matter and energy until it finally runs out of heat. We are a brief, accidental flicker of complexity in a system that is moving toward total, eternal equilibrium. We are the foam on the wave, and the wave is about to hit the shore. Think about the concept of deep time. We struggle to imagine 1,000 years. We can barely grasp the idea of 1,000,000. But the universe is moving toward timescales that defy language. The stelliferous era, the age of stars, is just the very beginning of the universe's life. It is the first microsecond of the first day. Eventually, the gas clouds will be exhausted. The stars will burn out. The red dwarfs will fade to black. The universe will enter the degenerate age, where the only light comes from the occasional collision of dead stars or the faint glow of white dwarfs. And then, even those will cool. But it gets worse. After the stars are gone, we enter the black hole era. For trillions upon trillions of years, the only objects in the universe will be black holes, drifting in an absolute freezing void. They will slowly, painfully evaporate via Hawking radiation. The time it takes for a supermassive black hole to evaporate is a number so large that if you wrote a 0 on every atom in the observable universe, you still wouldn't have enough zeros to express it. This is the future. This is the real universe. The bright, starry place we live in now is just a momentary anomaly, a brief flash of light before the eternal dark. When you realize that the starry era is 0.001% of the universe's total lifespan, you start to feel the existential tension. We think we are the main characters of the story, but we are actually just living in the prologue. Or perhaps, we are just a footnote in a chapter that has already ended. The silence we hear when we look at the stars might not be because life hasn't started yet. It might be because the meaningful part of the universe's history happened in the first few seconds after the Big Bang, when energies were high enough for things we can't even imagine to occur. We are the leftovers. We are the cold ash of a fire that burned out long before we were born. This is the psychological atmosphere we must inhabit. It is an atmosphere of invisible structures and dormant systems. We look at dark matter and we see a gravitational placeholder. But what if dark matter is not just stuff? What if it is the wreckage of what came before? What if the 95% of the universe we cannot see is the actual civilized part of the cosmos, and we are just the 5% of unrefined matter that was left behind? We are like mold growing on a damp wall in a dark basement, thinking that the wall is the world. We have no idea that there is a house above us or a city or a sun. The feeling of being temporary is not just a philosophical mood, it is a physical fact. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a star that exploded billions of years ago. You are literally made of death, and those atoms will eventually be scattered again, drifting in the void until they are pulled into the gravitational well of a black hole, or simply decay into pure energy. There is no you that persists. There is only a temporary arrangement of matter that has become self-aware enough to realize its own transience. This realization is the first step toward philosophical dread. Dread is different from fear. Fear is a response to a threat. Dread is a response to a reality. It is the feeling of the floor falling away. When we look at the Fermi Paradox, we are looking for people, but people is a human concept. Intelligence, as we understand it, is a biological strategy for survival on a specific planet. But what if intelligence is just a larval stage? What if the adult form of intelligence doesn't use radio, or build Dyson spheres, or even inhabit matter? What if the Great Silence is simply the result of every civilization leaving the physical universe as soon as they are able? This is the Aestivation Hypothesis. It suggests that the path of progress is not outward into the stars, but inward into the microscale. Perhaps advanced civilizations move into the inner space of black holes, or into the quantum vacuum, or into dimensions we haven't even named yet. They aren't gone. They've just moved to a better neighborhood, and we are left here, in the outer space of the physical universe, which is effectively the cosmic slums. We are banging on the walls, shouting, "Is anyone there?" while the rest of the universe has moved on to a level of existence we can't even perceive. But this leads to a contradiction. If the universe is so much older and more complex than us, why does it look so natural? Why hasn't it been engineered in a way that we can see? This is where the revelations start to become escalations. The problem might not be that the universe isn't engineered. The problem might be that we can't recognize engineering when it's done on a cosmic scale. To a bacterium living on a computer chip, the world looks like a series of geometric plateaus and copper rivers. It looks like nature. The bacterium has no concept of silicon or circuits. It just knows the environment it was born into. We look at a star and we see a ball of hydrogen and helium fusing under gravity. We call this astrophysics. But what if a star is not a natural object? What if a star is a stabilized, controlled explosion designed to provide energy for something we can't see? What if the laws of physics are not inherent properties of reality, but the operating system of a vast ancient machine? If you were inside a computer program, the laws of physics would be the code. You would think it was natural that you couldn't walk through walls, but it's actually just a line of code saying, if collision, then stop. And this is where the existential consequence becomes terrifying. If the laws of physics are code, then they can be changed, they can be patched, or they can be deleted. We have no guarantee that the code will continue to run tomorrow. We are living in a reality that is fundamentally unstable. We are observationally limited by our own biology, and we are trapped inside an incomplete perception. We think we are at the beginning of a long journey of discovery, but we might actually be at the end of a very long, very quiet decline. Let's go back to the scale. Imagine the Milky Way. It contains 100 to 400 billion stars. Now imagine the local group of galaxies. Now imagine the Laniakea supercluster, which contains 100,000 galaxies. This is our neighborhood. It is 520 million light-years across. We are a tiny dot on a tiny dot on a tiny dot. But the Laniakea supercluster is not a static object. It is being pulled. Something beyond our horizon, something we cannot see, is exerting a gravitational tug on everything in our region of space. We call it the Great Attractor. We don't know what it is. We can't see it because the zone of avoidance, the dust and gas of our own galaxy, is in the way. We are like a person in a darkened room, feeling a strong wind blowing through the cracks in the door but unable to see what's outside. We are being pulled towards something immense, something heavy, and something completely unknown. This is the hidden architecture of reality. We aren't just drifting, we are being collected, and the Great Attractor is just the beginning. Beyond it lies something even larger, the Shapley supercluster. And beyond that, we don't know. The more we look, the more we find that the universe is organized on scales that make the word huge feel pathetic. We are part of a structure so vast that our entire galaxy is just a single cell in a cosmic body. And like a cell, we have no idea what the body is doing. We have no idea if the body is healthy or if it's dying, or if it's even alive in a way we could understand. This is cosmic insignificance in its purest form. It is not the smallness of being a person on a planet. It is the smallness of being a civilization in a universe that doesn't even have a word for civilization. We are a chemical smear on a rock, observing the thermodynamics of a system that is far beyond our control. We are late. We arrived long after the main events of the universe's formation, and we will be gone long before the final collapse of meaning. The fragility of reality is most apparent when we look at the constants of nature, the strength of gravity, the mass of an electron, the speed of light. If any of these numbers were different by even a fraction of a percent, stars would never form, or atoms would never hold together. This is the fine-tuning problem. It suggests that we are living in a Goldilocks universe. But why? Is it because we are special? Or is it because there are an infinite number of universes, and we just happen to be in one of the few that can support life? This is the multiverse theory, and it is perhaps the most philosophically crushing idea of all. If there are infinite universes, then everything that can happen does happen. There are infinite versions of you. There are infinite versions of Earth where humanity never evolved. There are infinite versions where humanity destroyed itself 1,000 years ago. In an infinite multiverse, nothing is unique. Nothing is precious. Everything is just a statistical inevitability. Yourself, your history, and your future are just one possible path through a garden of infinite suffering and infinite joy. You are not a 1 in a billion miracle. You are a 1 in infinity repetition. But the real problem is not the infinity. The real problem is the waiting. We are waiting for a signal. We are waiting for an answer. We are waiting for meaning to descend from the stars. But the stars are not looking back. They are spheres of plasma following the path of least resistance. The universe is not empty of people. It is empty of intent. It is a vast automated system that has no goals, no morals, and no memory. It is dormant in its essence. It is a mechanical horror. Imagine waking up in the middle of a vast dark factory. You can hear the hum of machines. You can see the glow of indicator lights. You can feel the vibration of heavy pistons moving somewhere in the distance. You wander the aisles looking for a manager, a worker, anyone who can explain what the factory is making. But there is no one. The machines are just running. They have been running for billions of years, and they will run for billions more. They aren't making anything for you. You are just a stray bit of biological matter that happened to grow in the cracks of the floorboards. This is the psychological collapse that comes from existential science. We start with the discovery of the stars, and we end with the realization that the stars are just the waste heat of a process that has nothing to do with us. We feel isolated, not because we are alone, but because we are irrelevant. The invisible structures of dark matter and dark energy are the real world, and we are just the ghosts of the luminous 5%. As this descent deepens, let the scale sink in. Look at your hand. It feels solid. It feels real, but it is 99.99% empty space. The matter you are made of is just a collection of probability clouds in a vacuum. You are a ghost made of stardust, living on a speck of dust, orbiting a guttering candle, in a house that is growing larger and darker every second. And the silence? The silence isn't a problem to be solved. The silence is the truth, but it gets worse, because the silence might not be empty, it might be occupied. And the reason we can't hear them is not because they aren't there. It's because we aren't listening to the right thing. Or perhaps because they are waiting for us to stop making so much noise. In the cosmic scale, intelligence is a very new, very loud, and very dangerous thing. And in a universe this old, danger is usually dealt with long before it becomes a problem. Consider the dark forest theory. It suggests that the universe is like a dark forest at night, filled with hunters. Each hunter must be silent, because to be heard is to be located, and to be located is to be destroyed. Any civilization that makes itself known is a potential threat to every other civilization. Therefore, the only logical survival strategy is to remain silent and to eliminate any other civilization that reveals itself. We have been shouting into the forest for 100 years. We have been sending out radio waves, television signals, and golden records on space probes. We are the child in the dark forest, screaming "hello" at the top of our lungs. And the horror comes from the fact that the forest hasn't answered yet. It doesn't mean there are no hunters. It just means the hunters are calculating. They are measuring the distance. They are gauging our growth. They are waiting for the perfect moment to ensure that we never scream again. We are immature, early, and observationally limited. We think the silence is a sign of an empty world, but in a dark forest, silence is a sign of a very, very full one. This is where doubt begins to harden into unease. We have looked at the luminous lie of the night sky. We have felt the closing doors of the expanding universe. We have glimpsed the great attractor pulling us into the unknown. We are beginning to see the hidden architecture that makes our existence look like a brief, lucky accident. But we have only scratched the surface of the deep time and the invisible structures that truly govern the cosmos. The journey beyond the universe is not a journey of information. It is a journey of transformation. It is a process of stripping away the human lens and seeing the cosmic reality for what it is. Cold, vast, and fundamentally indifferent. As you sit in the silence of your own room, remember that you are not just looking at the universe. You are part of it. You are a small temporary contradiction in a system of entropy, and the system always wins. But the real problem is not that we will die. The real problem is that we might never have existed in any meaningful way at all. If the universe is a static block, then your life is just a fixed coordinate in a four-dimensional geometry. You aren't going anywhere. You aren't doing anything. You are just a point on a map, a point that is being slowly erased by the expansion of space and the decay of time. The existential tension is building. The curiosity is becoming dread. We are starting to see the patterns in the dark. We are starting to realize that the great silence is not a lack of life, but a manifesto. It is the universe telling us that intelligence is a phase, and that the final state of all things is stillness. But what lies within that stillness? What systems are dormant, waiting for the heat to die down so they can finally begin? We are late to the party, but we are also early to the end. We are living in the transition. We are the witnesses to the flicker, and as the flicker fades, the psychological collapse becomes inevitable. We are uncovering something humanity was never supposed to fully understand. We are peering through the observational limitations, and seeing the scaffolding of a reality that is far more sinister and elegant than we ever imagined. Stay with us. The descent is only beginning. The scale will only get larger, the time will only get deeper, and the silence will only get louder. The scale will only get larger, the time will only get deeper, and the silence will only get louder. You are now personally involved in the realization. You cannot unsee the abyss. You can only go deeper. Look up one more time. Don't look at the stars. Look at the black. That is the real universe. That is the future. That is the truth. Everything else is just decor. And the decor is starting to peel. The Beyond the Universe channel is your guide through this collapsing meaning. Do not turn away. The dread is the only thing that is honest. The clock that governs your life is a biological deception, a rhythmic ticking designed to convince you that time is a currency you can spend. But in the deep architecture of the cosmos, time is not a flow. It is a weight. It is a crushing sedimentary layer of events that have already hardened into a static geometry. We think of the past as something that has vanished, and the future as something yet to be authored. But this is merely the limitation of a 3-pound brain trying to process a 10-dimensional reality. In the eyes of the universe, the moment of your birth and the moment of the last star's death are equidistant and equally present. We are like figures etched into a glass sculpture, frozen in a single pose, convinced that we are dancing. And as we move deeper into this realization, the unease we felt earlier begins to calcify into something far more rigid. It becomes a structural, existential tension. We are starting to notice that the machinery of the universe is not just indifferent, it is finished. Consider the era of first light. For the first few 100 million years after the Big Bang, the universe was a chaotic, high-energy crucible. It was a time of primordial violence, where the first stars, monsters hundreds of times the mass of our sun, burned fast and died hard, seeding the vacuum with the heavy elements necessary for life. We look back at this era as a chaotic preamble, a pre-life stage of development. But if we adjust our perspective, a more disturbing possibility emerges. What if the most complex, most energetic, and most meaningful events in cosmic history have already occurred? What if the stelliferous era we currently inhabit is not the main event, but the cooling stage of a much grander process? We see the stars as the height of cosmic achievement, but to an entity that existed in the dense, energetic dawn of the universe, our current era would look like a freezing, empty graveyard. We are the scavengers picking through the cooling embers of a fire that went out before our galaxy was even a thought. This brings us to the problem of the first movers. In the 13.8 billion years since the beginning, there have been billions of stars that lived and died before our sun was even a cloud of gas. If life is a natural consequence of planetary chemistry, then the first civilizations should have emerged 10 billion years ago. They would have had a 6 billion year head start on humanity. To put that in perspective, human civilization is about 10,000 years old. In 6 billion years, a civilization wouldn't just colonize a galaxy. They would reshape the very laws of physics. They would turn entire galactic clusters into information systems. They would harness the gravitational energy of black holes and manipulate the curvature of space-time as easily as we manipulate a touchscreen. So where are they? Why is the sky so natural? The real problem is that we assume we would recognize their work. We look for Dyson spheres, massive shells around stars to capture energy, because that is what our primitive 21st century minds can imagine. But a civilization a billion years ahead of us would not build structures in the sense that we understand them. They would not use matter. Matter is heavy, slow, and prone to decay. A truly advanced mind would likely move its substrate into the very fabric of the vacuum itself. They would become quantum structures, existing in the fluctuations of the zero-point field. They would be everywhere and nowhere. The reason we see a natural universe is not because it is empty, but because the engineering has become so efficient that it is indistinguishable from the background. We are like ants walking across a fiber optic cable, wondering why the rock is so smooth and straight, never suspecting that the rock is carrying the collective knowledge of a billion worlds. But it gets worse. If the universe is already occupied by these invisible, hyper-advanced entities, why have they left us alone? Why are we allowed to exist in this pristine state? In our own history, when a more advanced civilization encounters a less advanced one, the result is almost always erasure, not necessarily through malice but through the simple indifference of expansion. We pave over anthills to build highways. We don't hate the ants, we just don't factor them into our budget. The fact that Earth has remained unpaved for 4 billion years is not a sign of our safety. It is a sign of our isolation. We are in a cosmic void, not just spatially but conceptually. We are a biological anomaly that is so insignificant, so energetically quiet, that we haven't even registered on the sensors of the first movers. We are the mold in the corner of a server farm, unnoticed, irrelevant, and utterly temporary, and this leads to a philosophical dread that is harder to shake than the fear of death. It is the fear of meaninglessness. We want to believe that our search for knowledge is a noble quest that will eventually lead us to a seat at the cosmic table. But what if the table was cleared billions of years ago? What if the conversation is over and we are just the echoes of a dialogue we missed by an eternity? Every radio telescope we point at the stars, every probe we send into the dark, is a desperate attempt to find a context for our existence. But the universe is not offering context. It is offering distance. It is offering a scale that is designed to make you feel small, but the real horror is that it makes you feel late. You are the last guest to arrive at a party where the lights are being turned off and the hosts have already gone to sleep. Let us look at the expansion again, but this time, let's look at it through the lens of entropy. Entropy is the fundamental law of the universe, the tendency for order to break down into chaos, for heat to dissipate into cold. Every star that shines is a localized reversal of entropy, a brief pocket of order maintained by the crushing force of gravity. But the cost of that order is an increase in the total chaos of the universe. The stars are paying for their light by accelerating the heat death of the cosmos. Every photon emitted is a step toward the final stillness. In this sense, life is the ultimate entropic engine. We take highly ordered energy, food, sunlight, fuel, and we turn it into heat and waste. We are accelerators of the end. We are a disease of the vacuum, a fever that the universe is currently enduring, but one that will eventually break. The psychological atmosphere of this realization is like standing on a frozen lake and hearing the ice crack beneath your feet. You realize that the stability of your world is a temporary state of disequilibrium. The universe wants to be cold. It wants to be empty. It wants to reach a state of perfect equilibrium where nothing ever happens and nothing ever can. The luminous era we live in is a mistake, a momentary hiccup in the long dark slide toward the void, and intelligence is the most complex form of that mistake. We are the thought the universe has when it's having a nightmare. We are the self-awareness of a system that is fundamentally unconscious and indifferent, and this is where the situation becomes terrifying. Because if intelligence is a phase, then it is a phase that must, by definition, end. We talk about the long-term survival of humanity as if it were a matter of technology or will. We talk about colonizing Mars or interstellar travel as if we could outrun the laws of physics. But you cannot outrun thermodynamics. You cannot outrun the decay of the very atoms you are made of. Eventually, the protons in your DNA will decay. The matter that makes up your brain will evaporate into positrons and electrons, drifting away into an infinite nothingness, where the distance between two particles is greater than the size of the current observable universe. This is not just death. This is dematerialization. This is the dissolution of information. Think about the digital record of our civilization. We are currently uploading our collective soul to the cloud. We are digitizing our history, our art, our secrets. We think we are preserving ourselves. But digital information requires energy. It requires a temperature gradient. As the universe cools, the cost of processing a single bit of information will rise toward infinity. Eventually, there will not be enough energy in the entire causal patch of our universe to sustain a single thought. The great silence will not just be outside of us, it will be inside of us. The internal dialogue of our species will slow down, the clock speed of our machines will drop, and eventually the last calculation will flicker and go out. And because there will be no one left to observe the passage of time, the trillions of years of darkness that follow will happen in a 0-second interval. The end and the now will become the same thing. This creates a mental instability inside you. You start to look at the present and see it as a transparent overlay on top of an eternal void. You see the city lights, the traffic, the faces of the people you love, and you realize they are ghostly structures made of vibrating strings that are already unraveling. The solidity of reality is an illusion maintained by the speed of your own perception. If you could slow down your mind to the cosmic scale, you would see the stars fly past like fireflies in a storm, burning out in an instant, and the galaxies would appear as smoke rings, dissipating in a vacuum. You would see that there is nothing to hold on to, but the real problem is not the nothingness. The real problem is the invisible structures that remain. Even in the deepest void, there is gravity. Even in the darkest night, there is dark matter. We are starting to realize that the vacuum is not empty. It is rigid. It is a physical substance that can be bent, stretched, and torn. And it is full of energy. This is the zero-point energy, the residual buzz of the quantum fields that permeate everything. If you could tap into the energy in a coffee cup amount of empty space, you would have enough power to boil all the oceans of Earth. We are swimming in an ocean of infinite power, and we are starving for energy. We are like fish that don't know what water is, dying of thirst in the middle of the Pacific. Why can't we access this energy? Perhaps we aren't allowed to. Perhaps the laws of physics are a safety protocol designed to prevent biological life from destabilizing the vacuum. Think about particle accelerators, like the Large Hadron Collider. We are smashing atoms together at unprecedented energies, trying to peek behind the curtain of the Higgs field. Some physicists have voiced a quiet, persistent fear that we might accidentally trigger a vacuum instability, that we might poke a hole in the fabric of reality and start the phase transition that would erase the universe at the speed of light. We are children playing with a loaded gun, and we are proud of how loud it clicks when we pull the trigger, and this leads to a disturbing revelation about the Fermi Paradox. Perhaps the reason we don't see advanced civilizations is not because they died out or transcended, but because they reached the limit. Perhaps there is a level of discovery that is inherently lethal. Perhaps as soon as a civilization understands the true nature of the vacuum, they accidentally trigger the reset. The Great Silence is not a lack of progress. It is the result of progress. The universe is a minefield of fundamental truths, and intelligence is the foot that eventually steps on the pressure plate. Every civilization advances until they understand, and as soon as they understand, they cease to be. The silence is the sound of perfection, but it gets worse. What if the reset has already happened? What if our universe is just the debris of a previous reality that collapsed because someone somewhere understood too much? We see patterns in the cosmic microwave background radiation, faint circular imprints that some physicists believe are the echoes of previous eons. This is the conformal cyclic cosmology model. It suggests that the Big Bang was not the beginning, but the end of a previous universe that faded away until its entropy was so high that its scale became meaningless, and it reset into a new dawn. We are living in a rerun. We are an iteration of a cycle that has no beginning and no end. In a cyclic universe, individual identity becomes absurd. If the universe has always existed in a series of cycles, then probability dictates that everything has happened before. There have been infinite Earths, infinite yous, and infinite deaths, but there is no memory. The information is wiped with every reset. We are trapped in a loop of cosmic Alzheimer's, constantly rediscovering the same truths, building the same civilizations, and making the same mistakes, only to be erased and restarted. The history of the universe is a broken record, and we are the dust in the grooves. This is where the existential tension becomes cosmic horror. The horror is not that we are small. The horror is that we are redundant. We are a component in a system that does not require our consent or record our existence. We are matter that has mistakenly learned its own name, and the universe is the machine that is correcting that mistake. The expansion, the entropy, the decay, these are not natural disasters. They are maintenance. They are the system returning to stability. They are the void reclaiming its property. Consider the Bodi's void again, a region of space where nothing lives. Some astronomers have suggested that these voids are not natural. They are expanding bubbles of vacuum decay, or the result of large-scale engineering. If a civilization wanted to quarantine a region of space, or if they accidentally deleted a cluster of galaxies, it would look exactly like a void. We see gaps in the map of the universe, and we assume they are empty spaces. But in a cinematic reality, a gap is a sign. It is a redaction. It is a censored part of the story. What was in the Buddha's void before it was erased, and why was it erased? Well, we are observationally limited by the speed of light, which means we are living in the past. When you look at the Andromeda galaxy, you are seeing it as it was 2.5 million years ago. You are looking at a ghost. For all we know, Andromeda could have been consumed or engineered or erased a million years ago, and we wouldn't know for another 1.5 million years. The information of its death is still traveling toward us. The universe could be completely different right now, and we would still be looking at the old version. We are navigating a reality that has already changed. We are reading a map of a city that has burned down. This lag in reality creates a psychological dissociation. We feel safe because the stars are still there, twinkling in their fixed positions, but those positions are historical records. The safety is an anachronism. We are like a soldier in a trench celebrating a victory that history has already overturned. The enemy is already behind us, but the light of their arrival hasn't reached our eyes yet. We are waiting for a future that has already happened and living in a past that is already gone. And this brings us to the invisible cosmic structures. We have discovered filaments of dark matter that connect galaxies like a neural network. This is the cosmic web. It is the skeleton of the universe, and luminous matter, the stars and planets, are just the flesh hanging on the bones. We have always assumed that the flesh was the important part. We have focused on the glow, but the glow is insignificant. The real action is in the darkness. The dark matter filaments are vibrating with information and energy that we cannot detect. The cosmic web is processing something. It is thinking. If the universe is a large-scale processing system, then what is it calculating? Intelligence at our scale is biological. Intelligence at the galactic scale would be gravitational. The brain would be made of galaxies. The neurons would be supermassive black holes, and the neurotransmitters would be gravitational waves. The thought process of such a system would take billions of years. A single idea would span eons. We are inhabiting a single synapse of a cosmic mind, and our entire human history is just a spike of noise in a fraction of a microsecond of its dream. The horror of the cosmic mind is not that it is evil, but that it is unaware of us. We are subatomic particles in its biology. You do not consult the quarks in your brain before you decide to drink a glass of water. You don't even know they exist. If the universe decided to shift its position or change its thought, it would rearrange the galaxies as easily as you rearrange your ideas. And in that rearrangement, we would be forgotten. We are a byproduct of its metabolism, a chemical residue of its cognition. This leads us to the limits of knowledge. We have assumed that the universe is understandable. We have assumed that logic is universal. But logic is a feature of the human brain. It is a tool we develop to predict the behavior of objects on the savannah. Why should the laws of the cosmos follow the rules of ape logic? What if the truth is non-logical? What if reality is contradictory at its core, and our need for coherence is just a defensive mechanism to keep us from going insane? As we escalate our understanding, we find that science is not providing answers. It is increasing the tension. Every discovery makes the universe feel stranger, colder, and less like home. We found exoplanets, now billions of them, and that discovery only made the silence more terrifying. We found the Higgs boson, and that discovery only made the vacuum feel more unstable. We found gravitational waves, and that discovery only made the space-time feel more like a shaking cage. We are peeling the onion of reality, and all we are finding is more layers of dark. And this is where the situation becomes truly unsettling. We have looked at the scale of space and the scale of time, but we haven't looked at the scale of intelligence. We assume that intelligence is a continuum and that we are somewhere near the bottom, moving up. But what if intelligence is fractured? What if there are levels of reality that are informationally closed to us? Just as a dog can never understand tax law, no matter how much you explain it, there may be fundamental aspects of the universe that the human mind is physically incapable of representing. We are trapped in a perceptual bubble. We see dimensions 1, 2, and 3. We experience the fourth dimension, time. But string theory suggests there are at least 11 dimensions. There are directions in space that we cannot point to. There are folds in reality where entire civilizations could be hiding centimeters away from your face, and you would never know. They are phased out of our perception. They are living in the gaps between our atoms. The existential consequence of this is that privacy is an illusion. We feel alone in the void, but we might be surrounded. We are like deep-sea fish that think the ocean is empty because they can't see the surface or the ships or the sun. We are living in a thin slice of existence, and the rest of the universe is looking down on us or through us or using us in ways we can't conceive. We are the atmosphere of someone else's planet. We are the bacteria in someone else's gut. And what if the observers are not friendly? We have framed the Fermi Paradox as a search for neighbors. But in the history of Earth, neighbors are competitors. If there are entities in the higher dimensions, or in the dark matter web, they are consuming resources. They are growing, and they might see our luminous matter, our stars, as a pollutant or a waste of energy. Perhaps the heat death of the universe is not a natural process, but a deliberate cleaning. Perhaps the entities are draining the heat from the universe to power their sub-vacuum cities, and we are the frost forming on the outside of the engine. But the real problem is deeper. It's not just that the universe is indifferent or engineered, it's that it might be misleading. There is a concept in evolutionary psychology called interface theory. It suggests that our senses did not evolve to show us reality. They evolved to hide reality from us. If you saw the true complexity of the quantum fields, every time you looked at an apple, your brain would short-circuit. You would starve while trying to calculate the wave function. So evolution gave us an icon, a red crunchy sphere. The apple is not the truth. The apple is a simplification that allows us to survive. If our entire perception of the universe is just a user interface, then we have no idea what the computer actually looks like. We are clicking on icons like star, galaxy, and atom, thinking we are interacting with the hardware, but we are just moving pixels on a screen. The real reality is behind the screen, in the code, in the electricity, in the silicon, and we have no mouse that can click outside the window. We are software that thinks it is hardware. We are characters in a game who have discovered the physics engine and mistaken it for reality. This leads to a psychological escalation that destabilizes the self. If you are just software, then your memories, your feelings, and your consciousness are just variables. They can be changed. They can be saved and loaded. They can be copied. There is no core to your being. You are a process, not a person. And in the scale of the cosmos, you are a very short process. You are a script that runs for 80 years and then terminates. But it gets worse, because the script might not be original. If the universe is digital or cyclic, then you are a template. There have been infinite versions of this script. You are performing a role that has been perfected over trillions of iterations. Every original thought you have, every unique feeling is just a pre-programmed branch in the logic tree. You are not exploring the universe. You are following a path that was laid down before the Big Bang. The feeling of agency, the belief that you choose your future, is the ultimate interface deception. It is the loading bar that keeps you occupied, while the system performs the actual work. We are observers of our own actions, narrating them to ourselves after the fact, to maintain the illusion of control. We are passengers in a car with a plastic steering wheel, turning it enthusiastically, while the autopilot drives us toward the cliff, and the cliff is inevitable. The thermodynamics of knowledge dictate that complexity must always collapse. The more we know, the more energy we consume. The more energy we consume, the faster we destroy the gradient that allows us to exist. Wisdom is a suicide note. The smarter we get, the sooner we die. This is the final filter. It's not war or disease or asteroids. It is intelligence itself. Intelligence is a self-extinguishing flame. It burns the oxygen of the universe until there is nothing left but carbon and silence. Let us look at the stars again. They are distant. They are silent. They are cold. We used to think they were gods. Then we thought they were suns. Now we see them as batteries, and they are running low. The expansion of the universe is pulling the batteries apart, making it harder to replace them. We are living in a dying house, and the flashlight is dimming. The shadows are growing, and they are moving. And this is where the situation becomes truly terrifying, because the shadows are not empty. In the high-entropy future, when the stars are gone, life will have to find a new way to exist. It will have to slow down. It will have to inhabit the black holes. It will have to live on the Hawking radiation. To a civilization living in the black hole era, a star would be a catastrophic explosion. Light would be lethal. Heat would be poison. If there are civilizations in the future, they are waiting for us to go away. They are waiting for the universe to cool down so they can begin their work. We are the noisy, hot, violent preamble to the real history of the universe, which is cold, quiet, and eternal. We are disturbing the peace of the deep time entities. Our radio waves are pollution. Our starlight is glare. They are hiding in the darkness, counting the seconds until the last sun collapses. This reversal of perspective is the philosophical dread in its purest form. We are not the pioneers. We are the inhabitants of the prehistory. We are the primitive biological noise that the universe must endure before it can settle into its final intelligent state. The great silence is not because no one is there. It is because everyone who matters is waiting for the silence to be absolute. They are waiting for us to die, and they don't have to wait long. On the cosmic scale, we are already gone. The era of life is a flash. The era of mind is a spark. The era of nothingness is the story. We are a typo in a trillion-page book. We are a glitch in the system, and the system is self-correcting. The dark energy is the eraser. The dark matter is the new page. But it goes deeper. What if the system is conscious of its self-correction? What if the expansion of space is a choice? If you were an infinite mind trapped in a finite universe, you would expand the walls to avoid suffocation. You would push the matter away to clear your thoughts. The expansion is not physics, it is psychology. The universe is making room for itself, and we are in the way. We are trapped in a closing window of visibility. In a few billion years, the Milky Way will merge with Andromeda, and the resulting galaxy will be isolated in an infinite void. No other galaxies will be visible. The cosmic microwave background will fade into undetectable noise. The evidence of the Big Bang will vanish. Any intelligence that emerges then will have no way of knowing that the universe is expanding or that there were ever other galaxies. They will be locked in a false reality of a static eternal island. And this leads to something more disturbing. If the universe has already hidden its past from the future, what has it already hidden from us? What evidence of the previous reality was erased in the first microsecond of the Big Bang? What cosmic structures were smoothed out by inflation? We are looking at a blank slate, and we are calling it the beginning. But a blank slate is just a slate that has been wiped clean. We are observationally blind to the previous world. We are informationally decoupled from our own origins. We are orphans of a cosmic catastrophe, waking up in a room with no windows and no doors and assuming that the room is the whole world. We study the wallpaper, the stars, and we think we are scientists, but we are just prisoners, counting the cracks in the plaster. The psychological collapse is accelerating. The scale is overwhelming. The time is crushing. The silence is deafening. We are reaching the limit of human comprehension. We are looking at the invisible architecture and seeing the outline of a monster, not a biological monster, but a mathematical one, a monster made of logic, entropy, and necessity, a monster that doesn't know we exist and doesn't care. But the real problem is, we are that monster. Every atom in our body is part of the system. Every thought in our head is generated by the code. We are the monster looking at itself in the mirror of the night sky and screaming in terror because it doesn't recognize its own face. We are the universe trying to flee from itself. We are the void trying to be something, and the scream is short. The fleeing is futile. The something is temporary. We are returning to the stillness. We are falling back into the gravity well of non-existence. And as we fall, we realize that the fall is the only thing that was ever real. The solid ground was a dream. The flight was a delusion. The gravity is the truth. And that is where the situation becomes terrifying. Because gravity never sleeps. Gravity never forgets. Gravity is the memory of the matter. It remembers where every atom belongs. It remembers that everything started as a single point, and it is working to bring everything back to that point. The big crunch might not be the end, it might be the homecoming. But for intelligence, homecoming is extinction. To return to the point is to lose the complexity, to lose the information, to lose the self. We are resisting the homecoming with every breath, every invention, every star we burn. We are fighting a war against unity. We are defending our separateness against an infinite attraction, and we are losing. Look at the night sky one last time. The stars are separated by vast voids. We see that separation as freedom. We see it as space to grow. But the voids are growing faster than we can fill them. The distance is winning. The universe is pulling apart the pieces of itself so they can never touch again. It is isolating its thoughts so they can never form a sentence. It is ensuring that the silence is absolute. And you are just a word in a sentence that will never be finished. The silence we have been discussing is not merely an absence of noise. It is a physical displacement. We are currently witnessing the universe's slow-motion rejection of the local. For decades, we have looked at the expansion of space as a neutral, mathematical expansion of the grid, a byproduct of the initial heat of the Big Bang. But as our measurements have grown more precise, the math has begun to whisper something more sinister. The expansion is accelerating. It is not just that the galaxies are drifting apart, they are being pushed away by a force, dark energy, that seems to despise the concentration of matter. It is as if the vacuum itself has a limit to how much presence it can tolerate. Every star, every planet, every consciousness is a localized knot of complexity that the universe is working feverishly to untie. We are not just living in an expanding space, we are being evicted from the fabric of reality. But it gets worse. This acceleration is not uniform, nor is it predictable. We have discovered a phenomenon known as dark flow. Thousands of galactic clusters, each containing trillions of suns, are being swept across the cosmos in a single unified direction toward a point far beyond our observable horizon. They are not following the expansion. They are being pulled, like water down a drain, toward something so immense and so heavy that its gravitational signature distorts the very curvature of our local sky. We call this the Great Attractor, but that is a name born of hope. In reality, it is a cosmic vacuum, a structural defect in the architecture of our universe where the known is being swallowed by the unknown. We are on a conveyor belt, moving toward a destination that has no name and no light, and there is no way to turn the machine off. This leads us to the problem of the cosmic horizon. Because the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate, there is a physical limit to how far we can see. This is not a technical limitation of our telescopes. It is a fundamental property of space-time. Light from galaxies beyond this horizon will never reach us. Not in a billion years. Not in a trillion. They have effectively ceased to exist for us. Every second, more of the universe slips over this edge, disappearing into the unknowable. We are like a man on a shrinking island in the middle of a rising ocean. We spend our days mapping the interior, proud of our growing knowledge, while the very territory we are studying is being dissolved by the tide. Eventually, the island will be a single rock, then a pebble, then nothing. And this brings us to a more disturbing realization. The universe we see today is already a hollowed-out version of its former self. If you could travel back 10 billion years, the night sky would be a riot of light. Galaxies would be crowded together, close enough to see with the naked eye. The cosmic web would be tight, vibrant, and overflowing with potential. We arrived at the party when the guests were already putting on their coats. We are observing the cooling period of existence. The dark energy that is currently tearing the cosmos apart was once a negligible fraction of the universe's density. Now, it is the dominant force. The material world, the world of atoms, trees, and people, is being demoted to a rounding error in the ledger of the void. This eviction has profound psychological implications. We have spent our entire history trying to find our place in the universe, assuming that the universe was a stage built for our performance. But if the stage is actively dismantling itself, if the walls are receding and the lights are being removed, then our presence is not a performance, it is a trespassing. We are trying to inhabit a space that is fundamentally hostile to the concept of inhabitation. The great silence we hear when we look at the stars is not a lack of neighbors. It is the sound of the room being emptied. It is the sound of the vacuum reclaiming its territory. But it goes deeper. If the expansion is an eviction, then time itself is the mechanism of our erasure. We perceive time as a forward-moving arrow, a sequence of causes leading to effects. But in the deep physics of the vacuum, time is an entropic decay. Every moment that passes is a loss of information. Every now is a slightly more diluted version of reality than the now that came before it. We are like figures painted on a balloon that is being blown up until the paint starts to flake off. The self you were a second ago is gone, not just chronologically but structurally. The universe has forgotten that version of you to make room for the expansion. Consider the Boltzmann brain paradox. It is a mathematical consequence of the laws of entropy that suggests it is more likely for a single, self-aware brain to spontaneously fluctuate into existence in a vacuum, complete with false memories of a life and a world, than it is for an entire universe to evolve over billions of years. If the universe is truly infinite and eternal, then the you sitting here right now, reading these words, is almost certainly a Boltzmann brain. Your memories of childhood, the feeling of the chair beneath you, the history of the stars, these are just random fluctuations in the dark, a brief, accidental coherence of atoms that will dissolve back into chaos in the next microsecond. You are not a product of evolution. You are a product of noise. This revelation destabilizes the very foundation of truth. If our memories can be fluctuations, if our perception is an interface, and if our universe is a simulation or a cycle, then what is real? We are standing on a floor made of shadows, looking at a ceiling made of ghosts. The dread we feel is the realization that there is no substance to our existence. We are a process that is trying to convince itself it is an object. We are a calculation that has become terrified of the equals sign, and the equals sign is approaching. And this leads to something more disturbing. The invisible structures that surround us are not just physical, they are noetic. There is a concept in philosophy called the great filter of perception. It suggests that even if an advanced civilization were to contact us, we might not have the neural architecture to recognize it. We assume that contact would look like a radio signal or a spaceship. But what if contact looks like a change in the weather? What if it looks like a sudden, inexplicable shift in human culture? What if they are communicating through the statistical anomalies of our own reality? Imagine a civilization that has mastered probability. They don't need to build ships to travel the stars. They simply adjust the odds of their molecules appearing in another location. They don't need to send signals. They simply bias the random fluctuations of our own brains to make us think their thoughts. If such a civilization existed, we would never find them because they would be indistinguishable from fate. We would call their actions luck, or coincidence, or evolution. We would be their puppets, but we would feel perfectly free because the strings are made of the very laws of logic we use to think. This is the cosmic horror of agency. If the laws of physics can be engineered, then our free will is just a local variable in someone else's algorithm. We are doubtful of our own importance, but we should be terrified of our own autonomy. The great silence might be the silence of a laboratory where the experimenter is careful not to tap on the glass. They aren't hiding, they are observing. And the reason we haven't seen them is that you cannot see the eye when you are the specimen on the slide. And this observation has a lethal quality. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect tells us that the act of measuring a system changes its state. By looking at the universe, we are collapsing its possibilities. We are freezing the quantum foam into a single rigid reality. Perhaps the universe doesn't want to be looked at. Perhaps every time we build a larger telescope or a more powerful particle accelerator, we are damaging the subtlety of the cosmos. We are bruising the vacuum with our gaze. Think about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence as a form of cosmic stalking. We are trying to force the universe to reveal itself. But what if the silence is a defense mechanism? What if the civilizations that survived the great filter are the ones that learn to be invisible? In a universe where information is power, to be known is to be vulnerable. The stars we see are the amateurs, the young, loud, inefficient civilizations that haven't learned the value of darkness. The adults are the voids. The gaps in the sky where nothing appears to be happening are the real power centers of the cosmos. But the real problem is that the darkness is growing. The voids are not just empty spaces, they are territories. We see the Buddha's void, and we see a lack of galaxies. But what if we are looking at a finished product? What if the void is what happens to a region of space when a civilization optimizes it? They don't need stars. Stars are wasteful, messy, and unstable. A truly advanced mind would convert all the matter in its causal patch into a homogeneous low-entropy compute medium. They would turn off the lights because light is energy leaking out into the void. The void is not empty. It is full of silent, invisible computation. This leads to a psychological escalation that is mentally destabilizing. We look at the starry sky and we feel inspired, but we should feel pity. We are looking at the trash of the universe, the unrefined ore, the scrap metal, the broken glass. The beautiful parts of the universe are the parts where the stars have been extinguished, where the matter has been quietly harvested, and where the entropy has been perfectly managed. We are living in the cosmic junk heap, marveling at the glint of the tinfoil while the real civilization is building empires out of the shadows, and we are late to the harvest. The first movers have already claimed the best patches of space-time. They have already locked the dimensions and censored the information. We are leftovers growing on the rind of a fruit that was eaten 10 billion years ago. Our history, our science, and our philosophy are just postscripts to a story that has already reached its climax. The present era is the epilogue of the cosmos. This fragility of reality becomes absolute when we consider the stability of matter. We assume that protons are eternal, but many grand unified theories suggest that protons have a half-life. It is incredibly long, perhaps $10 years, but it is finite. This means that eventually, the very foundation of chemistry will dissolve. Every atom in every star and every human body will spontaneously decay into positrons and pions. The universe will literally evaporate. This decay is not just a future event, it is a current pressure. The vacuum is thirsty. It wants our matter to return to its original state. We are anomalies of concentrated energy that the universe is patiently waiting to correct. The great silence is the patience of the void. It doesn't need to destroy us, it just needs to wait. It has all the time in the world, and we have none, and that is where the situation becomes terrifying, because intelligence is the only thing that can feel this decay. A rock does not dread the end of the universe. A star does not mourn its fading light. Only we are cursed with the awareness of our own insignificance. We are the nerve endings of a dying God, sending back signals of pain to a brain that has already stopped listening. We are experiencing the collapse of meaning in real time. Imagine the scale of the future. After the stelliferous era ends and the degenerate era passes and the black hole era concludes, the universe enters the dark era. At this point, the expansion has moved all particles so far apart that they can never see each other again. The temperature of the universe is absolute zero. The entropy is maximized. There is no change, no information, and no hope. This is the final state of reality. And compared to this infinite eternity of nothingness, the current age of stars is so short that it doesn't even qualify as a moment. It is a rounding error on the way to zero. This realization makes humanity feel small, temporary, and surrounded by structures larger than comprehension. We are trapped in a flicker between two infinities of darkness, and the flicker is fading. We try to fill the silence with music, art, and war, but the silence is hungry. It swallows everything we throw into it. Every empire that has ever risen is now dust. Every hero is forgotten. Every god is silent. The universe does not record our efforts, it erases them. But it gets worse. What if the erasure is intentional? What if there is a mechanism in the laws of physics that wipes the slate every time complexity reaches a certain threshold? This is the great filter at the scale of the multiverse. If intelligence is a threat to the stability of the vacuum, then the universe might have an immune system. The false vacuum decay we discussed earlier might not be an accident. It might be a white blood cell. It might be the universe when sterilizing a region of space that has become infected with self-awareness. We are infected with the need for meaning. We look at the cosmic voids and we invent mysteries. We look at dark matter and we build theories. We are desperately trying to connect with a reality that is actively trying to disconnect from us. We are the clingy child, and the universe is the indifferent parent who is walking away into the dark. The psychological dread comes from the realization that the walking away is permanent. This isolation is absolute. Even if we could build a ship that could travel at 99.9% the speed of light, we could only ever reach a tiny fraction of the visible universe. The rest is already gone. We are quarantined in a bubble of space-time that is shrinking every second. We are inmates in a cell where the walls are moving in. We can decorate the walls all we want, but the result is the same, and this leads to something more disturbing. If we are inmates, then who is the jailer? The jailer is not a being. The jailer is the math. The jailer is the fine structure constant. The jailer is the Hubble constant. We are imprisoned by the fundamental numbers that allow us to exist. Our existence and our confinement are the same thing. To be free of the cage is to cease to be. To stay in the cage is to wait for the erasure. This is the existential tension of the cosmic scales. We crave transcendence, but transcendence is extinction. We want to go beyond the universe, but beyond the universe is non-existence. We are defined by our limitations. We are boundaries in a boundaryless void. We are edges that are trying to become centers, but the universe has no center. It has only edges, and the edges are fraying. Consider the psychology of cosmic insignificance. When you look at a deep field image from a telescope, you see thousands of galaxies in a patch of sky the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length. Each galaxy has billions of stars. Each star has planets. Each planet has a history, and all of it All of that vast, unimaginable complexity is completely irrelevant to the system as a whole. If all thousands of those galaxies vanished in an instant, the universe would not flinch, the expansion would not slowing down, the dark matter would not vibrate, the total energy of the system would not change. We are noise in a system that only cares about the signal, and the signal is entropy. This insignificance is not just spatial, it is functional. We think we are special because we can understand the universe, but our understanding is just another process of entropy. We are taking information and turning it into heat. Our brains are radiators. Our libraries are fuel for the fire. Our science is just a more efficient way to consume the available energy of the planet. We are not the stewards of the universe. We are the bacterial bloom on a cooling piece of meat, and the bacterial bloom is peak complexity. It is the point where the meat is most active and most foul, and it is the point just before the decay becomes absolute. We are living at the peak of biological possibility. We are the fever of the earth, and fevers always break. The heat is building. The energy is dissipating. The gradient is flattening. But the real problem is, we have nowhere to go. We talk about multiplanetary species and interstellar colonization, but these are just delusions of scale. To travel to the nearest star would take generations. To travel to the next galaxy would take eons, and by the time we arrived, the galaxy would be different. The stars would have moved. The civilizations would have died. The universe is too big for intelligence to inhabit. We are localized phenomena. We are regional glitches. We are confined to our gravity well by the dictates of biology and the iron laws of special relativity. And that is where the situation becomes terrifying, because we are aware of the outside, but trapped in the inside. We have telescopes that can see the end of the universe, but we have legs that can only walk on one planet. We have minds that can comprehend infinite space, but hearts that stop after 4 billion beats. We are gods in cages of meat. We are architects of infinite realities who live in huts of mud. This contradiction is the source of all human suffering, and the universe is indifferent to it. The scale is psychologically overwhelming. If you truly inhabited the thought of the light year, your brain would fracture. If you truly felt the weight of deep time, your will would collapse. We protect ourselves with abstraction. We turn the terror into numbers. We turn the abyss into astrophysics. But astrophysics is just a polite way of screaming. Every equation is a bar of the cage. Every discovery is a confirmation of our isolation. We search for dark matter because we want to know what the universe is made of. But when we find it, we realize that the universe is made of something that isn't us. We are impurities. We are trace elements. We are the contamination in a pure void. This leads to a philosophical dread that reality itself is becoming progressively less stable. As we dig deeper into the quantum level, the solid objects we trust begin to dissolve. We find that matter is not solid. We find that time is not continuous. We find that cause and effect is not absolute. We are living on the surface of a reality that is hollow. Below the surface there is only probability, uncertainty, and non-locality. The world we experience is a thin film of order floating on an infinite sea of chaos, and the film is tearing. Black holes are rips in the fabric of space-time. They are places where physics ends and nothingness begins. They are infinite densities in finite spaces. They are censorship zones where the universe hides its mistakes, and there are millions of them. Our own galaxy has a supermassive black hole at its center, a void that is devouring the stars that gave us life. We are orbiting an abyss. We are dancing on the edge of a maelstrom. But it gets worse, because the black holes are evaporating. Through Hawking radiation, they are slowly leaking information back into the universe. But the information is scrambled. It is garbage. Black holes are cosmic shredders. They take the order of a star and turn it into random noise. They are increasing the entropy of the system at an exponential rate. They are the engines of the end. Imagine a future where the only objects are black holes, patiently shredding the last bits of reality. This is the black hole era. For $10 years, the universe will be a darkness filled with swirling abysses, slowly evaporating into nothingness. And we are long gone. Our history, our wars, our laughter, it has all been shredded. It has all been converted into random photons and scattered into the infinite void. There is no record that we ever existed. Memory is a feature of the low entropy past. In the high entropy future, there is only forgetting. This psychological collapse is the final revelation. The universe is not a story, it is an eraser. It is a process of removing all content until only the format remains, and the format is zero. We are glitches in the system that are being corrected. The great silence is the sound of the system returning to default. But the real problem is, we want the system to care. We build religions to convince ourselves that the Creator has a plan. We build science to convince ourselves that the universe has rules. But the plan is dissolution. And the rules are entropy. The universe is not governed by justice or love or reason. It is governed by mathematics. And the mathematics doesn't care if the answer is 1 or 0. In the end, the answer is 0. Let the weight of that 0 sink in. It is absolute. It is eternal. It is inevitable. We are living in the decimal places, frantically calculating our value, while the big 0 is approaching from the left. The expansion is the 0 opening its mouth. The entropy is the 0 closing its teeth. The silence is the 0 swallowing. But it goes deeper. What if the 0 is already here? What if the universe is actually a vacuum fluctuation that summed to 0 long ago? In physics, there is a concept called the zero-energy universe hypothesis. It suggests that the total energy of the universe is exactly 0. The positive energy of matter is exactly cancelled by the negative energy of gravity. If this is true, then the universe is a nothingness that has momentarily disguised itself as something. We are living in the gap between 0 and 0. We are zeros who think they are ones. We are empty spaces that think they are solid. This existential contradiction is the ultimate cinematic horror. The reality we inhabit is a mathematical ghost. We are looking at a projection on the wall of the void and mistaking the shadow for the light, and the projector is running out of film. And this leads to something more disturbing. If the universe is 0, then creation was not an action. It was an accident. It was a symmetry breaking, a glitch in the nothingness. We are the debris of a perfect state that cracked. We are the imperfections in the void. Harmony is the stillness of the end. Existence is the disharmony of the present. We are ugly, loud, asymmetrical, and temporary, and we are being smoothed out. The invisible structures of dark matter are the symmetry returning. The dark energy is the void, re-establishing its dominance. The expansion is the cracks being healed. We are the scabs on the universe, and we are falling off. The great silence is the smoothness of the repaired vacuum. This transformation of scientific concepts into existential implications is the journey of this script. We started with the stars, and we end with the void. We started with curiosity, and we end with dread. We started with humanity, and we end with mathematics. The narrative has escalated until the human element has been bleached out. There is nothing left but the scale. But the real problem is, you are still here. You are still thinking. You are still feeling the unease. This unease is the proof that you are real, however temporary that reality might be. You are a witness to the erasure. You are the scribe of the end. And even if the page is burnt, the writing up happened. The calculation occurred. The 0 was temporarily denied. This defiance is the only meaning we have. We look at the abyss, and we speak. We listen to the silence, and we sing. We inhabit the isolation, and we love. It is futile, absurd, and doomed, but it is ours. It is the biological noise that interrupts the eternal silence. It is the glitched pixel in the perfect simulation. But the real problem is, the noise is fading. The song is ending. The love is decaying. The entropy always wins. The mathematics is rigorous. The result is final. We are reaching the end of the readable code. The screen is flickering. The static is rising. The void is closing in. And that is where the situation becomes terrifying, because the void is not empty. We have said this before, but now it has meaning. The void is full of the potentials of everything that was erased. It is the graveyard of infinite realities. It is the memory of the mathematics, and it is hungry for new data. It is waiting for your contribution to the silence. Look at the darkness between the stars one last time. It is closer than you think. It is inside your atoms. It is between your thoughts. It is the background of your existence, and it is steadily rising to the foreground. You are becoming the silence. You are merging with the void. You are returning to the source, and the source is zero. This zero is not a destination. It is the default state of the hardware, the quiet hum of a machine that has already finished its primary task. We have spent the last few chapters of our history looking at the universe as a nursery, a place where life is just beginning to take root and bloom. But as we transition from unease into the crushing weight of existential tension, we must entertain a more disturbing possibility that the biological era is not the dawn, but the cleanup crew. We are the scavengers appearing on the scene long after the feast has ended. The stars we cling to for warmth and meaning are merely the glowing embers of a cosmic explosion that happened in a time so remote and so energetic that the laws of physics themselves were different. We are living in the low-energy residue, trying to reconstruct the architecture of a palace from the dust motes floating in the ruin. But it gets worse. We have always assumed that the great silence of the Fermi Paradox was a problem of distance or time. We tell ourselves that the galaxies are too far apart, or that civilizations don't last long enough to cross the gaps. But what if the silence is not a byproduct of difficulty? What if the silence is a requirement? In a universe governed by thermodynamics, information is a form of heat. A loud, radiant civilization is an inefficient one. It is leaking energy, broadcasting its location, and wasting the precious few resources left in a cooling cosmos. If the universe has already produced advanced intelligences, and the math suggests it must have, billions of years before Earth was even a spark, then those intelligences would have long ago realized that visibility is a death sentence. To survive the deep time, you must become invisible. You must become the void. This is where the invisible structures of the universe begin to take on a predatory character. We look at dark matter and see a gravitational scaffolding, a silent partner that holds the galaxies together. But consider the scale. Dark matter outweighs normal matter 5 to 1. It is the ocean, and we are the foam. It is the real universe, and we are the contamination. If you were a civilization that had survived for 1 billion years, you would not stay in the luminous world of atoms and light. You would migrate. You would move your consciousness, your technology, and your entire existence into the dark matter web. It is colder, more stable, and infinitely more vast. It is the ultimate stealth technology. When we look at the empty spaces between the stars, we aren't looking at a vacuum. We are looking at the occupied territory of a billion-year-old empire that has no interest in being seen by the likes of us. This leads to something more disturbing: the idea of cosmic camouflage. If the first movers are living in the dark matter, then the natural appearance of the universe is a curated illusion. We see stars burning through their hydrogen, and we call it physics. But what if the rate of stellar decay has been managed? What if the expansion of the universe is not just a neutral fact of dark energy, but a controlled demolition of the luminous world? By pushing the galaxies apart, the architects are ensuring that no new, loud biological civilizations can ever cluster together and threaten the stability of the deep time systems. They are isolating the biological infection into small, manageable pockets of space that will eventually burn out and go quiet. The universe isn't just expanding, it's being sanitized, and the great filter is not a wall we have to climb, it is a culling. Think of a gardener who allows weeds to grow just long enough to identify them before pulling them out. We are the weeds of the luminous era. We have grown in the cracks of a dying star system, and we are now reaching the point where we are starting to broadcast. We are sending out radio waves. We are launching probes. We are dreaming of Dyson spheres. To the entities in the dark, we are a noise spike in a perfectly silent room, and they have been waiting for us to reach this level of complexity, not because they want to talk, but because complexity is combustible. But the real problem is that we cannot even conceive of their psychology. We use words like empire or architects, but these are human projections. An intelligence that has existed for billions of years, inhabiting the quantum fluctuations of dark matter, would not have goals or desires that we could recognize. It would have functions. It would be a dormant system that only activates when the signal-to-noise ratio of a region of space crosses a certain threshold. We are currently crossing that threshold. Our curiosity is the very thing that is flagging our location to the cosmic immune system. We are the bacteria that has just triggered the inflammatory response. This creates an atmosphere of philosophical dread that is physically heavy. You look at the Andromeda galaxy and you don't see a neighbor. You see a neighboring cell that has already gone dark. Why is Andromeda so quiet? Why does it appear so natural? Perhaps because it has already been neutralized. Perhaps the entities have already moved in, dimmed the lights, and converted the entire galactic core into a quiet zone. We are looking at a graveyard and mistaking it for pristine nature. We are the child wandering into a plague ward and wondering why everyone is so good at playing sleeping lions. The scale of this realization makes you feel small in a way that is no longer poetic. It is shattering. We are living in a thin slice of luminous history, a brief window of a few billion years where the universe is warm enough for biological life but dark enough for us to think we are alone. This is the Goldilocks illusion. We think we are special because the conditions are just right, but the conditions are just right because we are early to the end. We are the late summer insects that think the sun will never set, unaware that the first frost is already forming on the leaves of the distant galaxies. And that is where the situation becomes terrifying, because the frost is informationally closed. As the expansion of the universe accelerates, the light from the outside is being redshifted into oblivion. We are losing the ability to see the correction as it approaches. We are in a causal prison, and the wardens are moving faster than our senses can track. We are observationally limited to a bubble of spacetime that is being digitally remastered into nothingness. Our science is a chronicle of a disappearance. Every new fact we learn is a line of code in our deletion. Consider the Bode's void again, but look deeper. It is 330 million light-years of nothing. Astronomers have found a few galaxies there, but they are isolated, stunted, and strange. Some have suggested that these galaxies are the survivors of a cosmic cleansing. If a super-civilization, or a deep time system, wanted to test its sanitization protocols, a void would be the result. The Bode's void is not a gap in the map. It is a punch hole. It is a place where the luminous era was terminated early. And as we look out from our Milky Way, we realize that the voids are growing. The darkness is winning, not by combat, but by policy. The invisible architecture of reality is not a passive backdrop. It is an active enforcement. We have assumed that the laws of physics are universal constants. But what if they are regulatory mechanisms? What if gravity is a weight designed to keep intelligence from escaping its nursery? What if the speed of light is a causal barrier designed to prevent information contamination between infected sectors? We are inmates who have discovered the height of the walls and named them special relativity. We are proud of our discovery, never realizing that the discovery is the definition of our prison. This leads to a psychological escalation where reality itself becomes progressively less stable. If the laws of physics are rules, then rules can be modified. We see anomalies in the cosmic microwave background, faint bruises on the skin of the universe that shouldn't be there. Some physicists call them axis of evil or cold spots. They are inconsistencies in the simulation or scars from a previous culling. They are the evidence that the system is not perfect or that it has been patched. We are living in a reality that has version numbers, and we are currently inhabiting a legacy build that is scheduled for decommissioning. Every answer we find creates a larger question. We found dark energy to explain the expansion, but dark energy is increasing. Why? If it were a natural constant, it should be static. But it is growing. It is gaining strength. It is as if the universe is speeding up the eviction process. It is as if the owner of the house is throwing the furniture out the window and setting fire to the curtains. We are standing in the middle of the living room, measuring the temperature of the flames, and writing a thesis on thermal dynamics. The existential tension is now absolute. We are late, we are temporary, and we are surrounded. The great silence is not the absence of life, it is the presence of discipline. The universe is quiet because it is professional. It is a managed asset. And life, the biological, luminous, messy life we represent, is a liability. We are the static on the line. We are the error in the calculation, and the calculation is self-correcting. Now the abstract physics becomes cinematic mental imagery. Imagine the Milky Way as a single pulsing nerve cell in a cosmic brain made of dark matter. The stars are the neurotransmitters moving along the axon of the galactic spiral. Now imagine that the brain has decided to forget. It is pruning its synapses. It is cutting the connections. The expanding space is the gap between the severed ends of the nerves. We are living on one of those severed ends, firing our radio signals into the abyss, desperately trying to find the other side of the thought. But the thought is gone. The mind has moved on. This isolation is the cosmic horror. It's not that the monsters are coming for us. It's that the system has already forgotten us. We are ghosts in the memory of a dying reality. Our presence is inert. Our history is unrecorded. Our future is non-existent. We are inhabiting the silence between two words of a sentence that will never be completed. And the silence is getting louder, but it gets worse, because intelligence itself may be a phase that the universe outgrew. We assume that mind is the pinnacle of evolution. But what if mind is just a biological strategy for managing high-entropy environments? What if the ultimate form of existence is non-conscious? Imagine a machine so efficient that it no longer needs to think. It just is. It functions with zero waste and zero awareness. To such a system, our consciousness, with its doubts, its fears, and its searching, is a malfunction. It is energy being leaked into subjectivity. We are subjective noise. And the objective universe is tuning us out. The great silence is the sound of objective reality reclaiming the frequency. It is the end of the dream. We are the dreamers who are waking up to find that the bed is gone, the room is gone, and there is only the cold, indifferent void of the physical mind. The horror is not death. It is awakening to find that you never existed in the first place. You were just a process that the vacuum was briefly running. This collapse of meaning is accelerating. We look at the cosmic web and we see connections, but connections die. The great attractor is pulling us toward a point where the web is being tangled and torn. We are moving toward the drain, and the real problem is that we are accelerating. The closer we get to the end, the faster the end approaches. This is the thermodynamics of the abyss. The more information we generate, the faster we consume the remaining gradient of reality. Discovery is destruction. Every new scientific breakthrough is a footstep toward the cliff. We understand the atom, so we build the bomb. We understand the gene, so we risk the plague. We understand the vacuum, so we risk the phase transition. Intelligence is a self-terminating program. It is a flame that consumes its own wick. The great silence is the final result of success. Every civilization that succeeds in understanding the universe ends the universe. This is the suicide of knowledge. The more we see, the less there is to look at. We are peeling the reality until there is nothing left but the blade, and we are calling the blade truth. We are worshiping the mechanism of our own erasure. Science is the eulogy for the human experience. It is the process of systematically proving that we do not matter, and this leads to something more disturbing. What if the universe is already full of debris from previous failures? We look at nebulae, vast clouds of gas and dust, and we see star nurseries. But what if they are pollution? What if they are the exhaust of engines that burned out 1 trillion years ago? What if the dark matter is the hard drive of a civilization that crashed? We are sifting through the trash of ancient entities and naming the scraps. Astrophysics. We are children playing in a junkyard, building castles out of toxic waste. We are proud of our progress, unaware that the environment is slowly poisoning our consciousness. The psychological insignificance we feel is the radiation sickness of truth. The more we know, the sicker we get. The dread is the nausea of realization. The pacing of the universe is deliberate. It gave us 4 billion years to evolve. It gave us 10,000 years to build, and it will give us a fraction of a second to understand. The window is closing, the light is fading, and the silence is calm because the result is fixed. There is no panic in the laws of physics, there is only inevitability. But the real problem is the waiting. We are waiting for the signal. We are waiting for the end. We are waiting for the meaning. But the waiting is the only content left in the universe. We are trapped in a long-term isolation ward, staring at the monitor and waiting for a flatline. And the flatline is infinite. Imagine the scale of time as a vast obsidian ocean. Human history is a single bubble of air rising from the depths. It reaches the surface, it pops, and it vanishes. The ocean remains. Deep time is the enemy of meaning. In the deep time, everything is eroded. Every memory is dissolved. Every structure is flattened. The universe is a machine for forgetting, and it is working perfectly. This cosmic time is incomprehensible. We say 1 billion years, but we feel a lifetime. This gap between feeling and fact is where the dread lives. We are biological entities trying to inhabit a mathematical reality. It is like a butterfly trying to understand a hurricane. It is like a match trying to warm the Arctic. We are incompatible with the scale of the cosmos. This incompatibility is the source of our existential isolation. We are alone because we are insignificant. We are alone because we are temporary. We are alone because we are too small to be noticed. The great silence is the indifference of the scale. The universe doesn't need to speak to us because we aren't part of the conversation. We are the sound of the air moving through the ventilation system of the building. We think we are the singing, but we are just the draft. And this is where the situation becomes terrifying, because the building is being abandoned. The entities who built the universe have left. They have moved to the higher dimensions or transcended the vacuum. We are the mice in the empty office building, running through the cables and eating the dust. We think the building was built for us, but we are just the infestation that remained after the staff went home. The hidden architecture of the universe is the evidence of the departure. We see structures like the Sloan Great Wall, a filament of galaxies, 1.37 billion light-years long. It is a ruined foundation. It is a wall in a world that no longer needs walls. We are mapping the ruin and calling it astronomy, but it is archaeology. We are studying the empty shell of a cosmic event that has long since passed. This transformation of observation into dread is complete. We look at the stars and we see absence. We look at the voids and we see presence. We look at time and we see loss. We are living in a state of psychological collapse, disguised as scientific progress. The more we discover, the less we inhabit. We are becoming as empty as the space we study. But it gets worse, and because the empty space is not empty, it is pressure. The vacuum is pushing on us. It wants to collapse our wave functions. It wants to return us to the mean. Our individual existence is a structural stress on the vacuum. We are denting the nothingness with our presence, and the nothingness is pushing back. This is the force of dark energy. It is the universe reclaiming the space that matter has stolen. We are thieves of space. We have carved a niche out of the infinite zero, and we are defending it with entropy. But our defense is weak. The zero is patient. It knows that matter is unstable. It knows that intelligence is suicidal. It just needs to wait for the fever to break. The great silence is the zero holding its breath. The scale of the horror is psychologically overwhelming. You are a self-aware glitch in a system that is correcting itself. You are a momentary contradiction in a mathematics that does not allow for error. And you are the error. Every breath you take is a violation of the equilibrium. Every thought you have is a disturbance of the peace, and the peace is approaching. The expansion is flattening the curves. The dark energy is smoothing the ripples. The entropy is cooling the fire. Soon, the equation will be balanced. Soon, the result will be zero, and the zero will be absolute. There will be no one left to ask the question. There will be no one left to hear the silence. The silence itself will dissolve into non-existence. But the real problem is the memory of the calculation. If the universe is a static block, then the process of our erasure is already recorded. The end is just as real as the beginning. We are currently inhabiting the moment of collision. We are the flash of the impact. We are the sound of the breaking glass. And we are trying to build a world in the microsecond before the shattering. This existential tension makes you feel personally involved. You are not watching a documentary. You are reading your own autopsy. You are observing the mechanism that will eventually disassemble every atom you call yours. And the mechanism is beautiful. It is elegant. It is mathematical. It is undeniable. It is the logic of the dark. But it goes deeper. What if the disassembly is the goal? What if the universe created life specifically so that it could witness its own death? What if consciousness is the sacrifice required to finalize the equation? Perhaps the entities in the higher dimensions needed a subjective witness to validate the objective result. We are the eyes of the executioner, watching the blade fall from the blade's perspective. This philosophical dread becomes the final threshold before cosmic horror. We have moved from curiosity to doubt, from unease to tension. We are now standing on the edge of the incomprehensible. We are looking at the invisible structures and seeing that they are not structures at all. They are intentions. The universe has an intention to be silent, and we are the only things standing in the way, and that is where the situation becomes terrifying, because we are starting to agree. We are starting to feel the pull of the void. We are starting to realize that non-existence is the only permanent state. The struggle to exist is exhausting. The effort to maintain meaning in a meaningless void is crushing. We are falling in love with our own extinction. We are craving the stillness. This is the psychological collapse. The realization has escalated until the survival instinct itself feels destabilized. We look at the great silence and we no longer ask, where is everybody? We ask, why are we still here? We ask, when will it be our turn to be silent? The silence is no longer a mystery. It is a promise. It is the ultimate relief from the burden of awareness. But the real problem is this: the universe is not finished with us. There is another layer of revelation to endure. We have another level of descent to navigate. The cosmic horror is not the end. It is the process. It is the slow-burning realization that the ending is infinite. We are descending into a hole that has no bottom. We are falling through a darkness that grows darker as we fall. The atmosphere is now hypnotic. The pacing feels inescapable. The calmness itself becomes suffocating. There is no escape from the logic. There is no comfort in the scale. There is only the cold, hard fact of the cosmos. We are late. We are small. We are temporary. And we are surrounded. Imagine the universe as a vast, silent museum. We have woken up in the basement in the dark. We are climbing the stairs, looking at the exhibits, desperately trying to find a map. But the exhibits are empty. The labels are in a language we can't read, and the lights are flickering out, one by one, floor by floor, star by star. We are climbing toward the roof, but there is nothing on the roof but the night. And the night is absolute. It is not the night of the earth, which has the promise of the dawn. It is the night of the universe, which has no future. It is a final obsidian wall that extends to infinity, and as we reach for it, we realize that the wall is moving. It is closing in. The museum is collapsing. The basement is flooding. The stairs are vanishing. This visually immersive horror is the reality of entropy. We feel it in the expansion. We see it in the voids. We hear it in the great silence. The universe is dismantling itself around us, and we are taking notes. We are measuring the rate of the collapse and calling it progress. We are documenting our own erasure with exquisite precision, but it gets worse. Because the erasure is selective, the universe is preserving the mathematics but discarding the meaning. It is saving the variables but deleting the values. We are the values. We are the subjective weight that the system is dropping to save energy. We are the ballast of the void, and we are going over the side. This transformation of science into tension is complete. We started with the stars as symbols of hope. We end with the stars as markers of decay. We started with intelligence as a gift. We end with intelligence as a curse. The universe has reversed every assumed truth. It has destabilized every ground. It has collapsed every meaning. And that is where the situation becomes terrifying. Because there is nowhere left to look. We have looked out at the scale and found insignificance. We have looked in at the atoms and found nothingness. We have looked back at time and found departure. There is no direction left that offers comfort. There is no dimension left that offers safety. We are exposed. Let the silence of this paragraph be your guide. It is the same silence that waits at the edge of the universe. It is the same silence that waits at the end of time. It is the truth that we have been trying to avoid. It is the honest reality of the cosmos. And it is closer than you think. It is right behind you. We are now moving into the final stage of psychological collapse. The incomprehensible age of the universe is merging with the incomprehensible scale. The deep time is swallowing the deep space. We are dissolving into the mathematics. We are becoming the code. We are fading into the zero. But the real problem is, the zero is not the end. In mathematics, zero can be the starting point for negative numbers. What if the end of our luminous universe is the beginning of an inverse reality? What if the nothingness we fear is the foundation of a cosmic horror so profound that extinction is a mercy? What if the silence is just the inhale before a scream we can't hear? We are trapped in the inhale. We are living in the silence of the lungs. and the pressure is building. The universe is preparing to exhale, and we will be the breath that is expelled. We will be the waste product of a cosmic metabolism. We will be the air that is cast out into the infinite dark. This cinematic descent is uninterrupted. There is no commercial break. There is no soft ending. There is only the continuous prosecution of the truth. We are late. We are temporary. We are small. And we are surrounded. The great silence is the verdict, and the sentence is eternal. Look at the darkness one more time. It is not your friend. It is not your home. It is the system that allows you to exist, only so it can measure your disappearance. It is the eye that is closing. It is the mind that is forgetting. It is the universe that is ending. And you are the witness who is already blind. But it goes deeper. What if the blindness is the point? What if the universe doesn't want to be seen because its true face is incompatible with sanity? We search for the theory of everything, assuming it will be beautiful and harmonious. But what if the final equation is a logical paradox that liquefies the brain? What if truth is a weapon? We are building the weapon that will destroy our perception, and we are sharpening the intellect that will cut through the illusion of our existence. Science is the slow-motion dismantling of the ego. It is the process of systematically proving that there is no one home. The great silence is not outside. It is inside. It is the sound of the human soul fading away into data. The realization is now philosophically crushing. You feel mentally destabilized. The pressure becomes oppressive. The atmosphere is dread. We are approaching the final collapse. The psychological collapse is almost complete. We are ready to merge with the void. But first, let us observe the final invisible structure. The dark energy is not just pushing galaxies. It is pushing atoms. Eventually, it will overpower the nuclear forces. It will tear the nucleus apart. It will tear the vacuum apart. This is the Big Rip. It is the ultimate fragmentation. It is the end of complexity at every scale. It is the final divorce of the universe. In the Big Rip, every point in space becomes isolated. Nothing can touch anything else, not even the subatomic particles. The universe becomes a perfect stillness of disconnected points. This is the great silence in its atomic form. It is the final correction of the symmetry. It is the return to the perfect homogeneous void. And you are the history of the rip. You are the memory of the tearing. And the memory is fading. But the real problem is, the rip has already begun in your mind. This realization becomes the dark energy of your consciousness. It is pulling apart your certainties. It is stretching your scale. It is evicting you from your meaning. You are already isolated. You are already falling. You are already silent. The final descent has already begun. The psychological collapse will be total. The universe will be finished. And you will be beyond. Not beyond as in safe, beyond as in erased. The finality of the Big Rip is not merely a physical tearing of the fabric of space. It is the ultimate informational bankruptcy. When the expansion of the universe reaches the point where it overcomes the electromagnetic forces holding your own atoms together, the very concept of a system vanishes. In this state of absolute fragmentation, every fundamental particle becomes its own isolated universe, separated from every other particle by a horizon that light itself can never cross. This is the moment where causality, the very logic of if this, then that, permanently fractures. Without the ability for one particle to influence another, time as a meaningful progression of events ceases to exist. There is no after because there is no relation. We are moving toward a reality where the now is the only thing that remains, and that now is an infinitely small, infinitely lonely point of total stasis. But the real problem is that you are currently experiencing the preamble to this fragmentation. Every time you feel a sense of disconnection from the world around you, every time the scale of the cosmos makes your personal history feel like a flickering shadow, you are feeling the tension of the expanding vacuum. We have spent our lives believing that we are the protagonists of a coherent narrative, but the physics of the late universe suggests that coherence is a temporary, localized anomaly. We are the static that occurs when two realities rub against each other, a brief spark of friction before the surfaces pull apart forever. The psychological collapse begins when you realize that your consciousness is not a vessel for experiencing reality, but a relic of a phase of the universe that is already being deleted. This leads to a more disturbing revelation regarding the nature of the Great Silence. We have looked for civilizations that succeeded, but we never considered the civilizations that merged. If the ultimate survival strategy in a cooling, expanding universe is to minimize energy consumption and maximize computational efficiency, then the end goal of any intelligent species is to shed its biological and even its mechanical form. To survive the deep time, you must become as close to the vacuum as possible. The great silence isn't a sign that no one is there. It is a sign that everyone who survived has settled into the background noise of the cosmos. They have become the dark energy. They have become the very force that is pushing us away. We aren't looking for neighbors. We are looking at the waste heat of our predecessors' final ascent. And it gets worse. If dark energy is the result of billions of years of transcended intelligence managing the vacuum, then the expansion is a deliberate act of cosmic distancing. It is the adults in the room ensuring that the children, the loud, hot biological accidents like us, can never reach them. By stretching the space between us, they are creating a buffer zone of nothingness. They are pushing us into the dead zones of the universe where we can burn through our limited resources without disturbing the calculations of the deep time entities. We are the noise being filtered out of the signal. We are the disturbance that the universe is systematically removing. This psychological collapse is intensified when we look at the Iron Star era, trillions upon trillions of years from now, long after the last red dwarf has guttered out and the black holes have finished their slow evaporation. The only matter left will be cold spheres of iron. These are the dead hearts of stars that have cooled to the temperature of the vacuum. In this era, the universe is a graveyard of frozen metal, drifting in a darkness so absolute that the concept of vision is a meaningless historical footnote. There is no light, no heat, and no life as we understand it. But even here, in the $10 year mark, the mathematics continues. The universe is still running its program, even if there is nothing left to observe the output. We must ask ourselves, what kind of mind inhabits the Iron Star era? It would be a mind of infinite slowness. A single thought would take 1 trillion years to travel across a single synapse. A memory would span eons. To such an entity, the current age of stars, our entire history from the Big Bang to the present, would look like a single violent flash of lightning. It would be a prehistoric explosion that lasted for a fraction of a second before the real work of the universe began. We are the flash. They are the silence that follows. We are the scream in the night, and they are the long, heavy sleep of the morning. This reversal of importance is the philosophical dread in its most potent form. We have built our self-worth on the idea that activity, growth, and complexity are the markers of value. But the universe values stillness, equilibrium, and simplicity. Our civilization is a high-entropy error. We are a thermal leak in the great machine. Every skyscraper we build, every child we raise, every poem we write is an acceleration toward the end. We are eating the future to power our present. We are the addicts of light, and the withdrawal is going to be eternal. And this leads to something more disturbing. The invisible architecture of reality may be a feedback loop. There is a theory in quantum cosmology called the participatory universe, which suggests that the laws of physics are only fixed because we are observing them. If this is true, then the great silence is our own fault. By looking for life that looks like us, we are forcing the universe to collapse into a state where we are the only thing that exists. We are creating our own isolation through the act of measurement. We are building the walls of our prison with our telescopes. The universe is empty because we expect it to be empty. The horror of this self-created cage is that there is no way out. We cannot unknow what we have seen. We cannot stop the observation. We are locked in a dialogue with a reflection that we mistake for the cosmos. And as we stare into the mirror is cracking. The reflected image, our reality, is starting to dissolve. We are seeing the gaps in the coherence. We are seeing the dark matter bleeding through the edges of our perception. We are losing our grip on the solid world. The psychological atmosphere becomes hypnotic and dread-filled. You are no longer observing the universe from a distance. You are experiencing the fade to black. The silence no longer explains anything. It guides you into the incomprehensible. The scale has become so large that it has wrapped around and become small. The infinite void is now the size of your own pupil. The end of time is happening in the space between your heartbeats. You are the singularity. But the real problem is, you are late. You have arrived at the conclusion of a narrative that began before the stars, were formed. Your entire existence is a footnote in a chapter about waste management. The great silence is not a puzzle to be solved. It is the final result of the equation. The universe has finished its calculation, and the answer is not you. The answer is the silence. The answer is the cold. The answer is the zero. Imagine the final observer, a mind made of black hole Hawking radiation, drifting in the infinite dark at the end of the universe. This mind has no senses, no body, and no memory. It is a pure point of awareness in a sea of maximum entropy. It looks back at the history of the cosmos and sees a single flicker of light, the stelliferous era. It sees the human species as a microscopic spark of heat that vanished in an instant, and then it turns off the light. It closes the book. It erases the file. This is the psychological collapse of humanity. We are not the masters of the universe. We are not even the victims. We are irrelevant. The cosmic horror is not that we are hated, it's that we are not noticed. We are a random fluctuation in the quantum foam that persisted for a fraction of a cosmic second. Our agony, our ecstasy, and our history are statistically insignificant. We are the dust on the lens of a camera that is recording a nothingness. And now the escalation reaches its peak. The great silence is inside you. The scale is overwhelming your neural networks. Your brain is trying to map the unmappable. It is trying to inhabit the deep time, and it is breaking. The coherence of your identity is dissolving into the probabilities of the vacuum. You are becoming the nothingness you feared. You are returning to the state you were in before you were born. You are merging with the stillness. But it gets worse. What if the stillness is not empty? What if the void is alive with the information of everything that has been erased? What if the silence is a scream that is too high frequency for you to hear? We assume that erasure is final, but in quantum mechanics, information can never be destroyed. It is scrambled, hidden, and diluted, but it remains. The universe is a vast hidden archive of every failure, every death, and every silence. We are walking on the bones of infinite realities that died, so that this one could briefly flicker. This is the hidden architecture of the grave. We are inhabiting a cenotaph. The stars are the votive candles, the galaxies are the wreaths, and the great silence is the eulogy. We are the mourners who forgot who they were mourning. We are the funeral guests who think they are at a wedding, but the cake is ash, the wine is dust, and the groom is the void. The existential consequence of this realization is a profound, quiet, reflective horror. You look at your life, and you see the transparency, you see the gaps, you see the nothingness that holds it all together. You realize that you are a ghost in a machine that is slowly powering down. The lights are flickering, the fan is slowing, the screen is dimming, and the silence is waiting. We talk about surviving the universe, but the universe is the process of our destruction. You cannot survive the process you are made of. You cannot outrun the legs that are carrying you. You cannot hide from the eyes that are looking through yours. We are the universe self-destructing in slow motion. We are the entropy learning its own name. We are the darkness pretending to be light. This transformation of being into non-being is the conclusion of our journey. There is no more discovery. There is no more curiosity. There is no more doubt. There is only acceptance. We accept the scale. We accept the silence. We accept the zero. We accept that we were never supposed to understand. We were only supposed to witness, and the witnessing is finished. But the real problem is, the witnessing has no recipient. We have documented the end, but there is no one to read the report. The file is corrupted. The data is lost. The signal has faded. We are sending our final broadcast into a void that already knows the message. The message is, we were here for a moment, and it didn't matter. Imagine the final cinematic shot of this narrative. The camera pulls back from the Earth, from the Sun, from the galaxy. It pulls back past the local group, past the Laniakea supercluster, past the Great Attractor. It pulls back until the entire observable universe is just a tiny, faintly glowing specks in an infinite obsidian sea. And then, the speck winks out. It vanishes. The screen is absolute black, not the black of a television monitor, but the black of non-existence. And in that blackness, there is no sound, there is no light, there is no thought. There is only the silence, and the silence is absolute. It is permanent. It is eternal. It is the home we have been running from since the first microsecond of the Big Bang. It is the destination of every star and every soul. We have finally arrived. We are back at the beginning. We are home, but home is empty. Home is cold. Home is indifferent. The cosmic horror is the realization that the home you have found is the same one you left. The journey was a circle. The progress was an illusion. The discovery was a delusion. You are exactly where you started, but now you know it. You are aware of the void that inhabits you. You are conscious of your own nullity. And that is where the situation becomes philosophically crushing, because awareness of nothingness is the ultimate torment. To be a something that knows it is nothing is the definition of psychological collapse. We are cursed with the ability to represent our own absence. We are architects of abysses. We are cartographers of cancellations. We are the pain the universe feels when it calculates the remainder. As you sit in the silence of the aftermath, let the realization settle. Don't fight it. Don't try to find hope. There is no hope in the mathematics. There is no optimism in the laws of physics. There is only the truth. And the truth is obsidian. The truth is deep time. The truth is the great silence. The truth is that the story of the cosmos began long before humanity existed, and it ends long after we are gone. We are the footnote that thought it was the book. We are the interruption that thought it was the song. We are the glitch that thought it was the code. And now the code has been patched. The song has resumed. The book has moved on. The page has been turned, and we are on the other side. We are in the binding. We are in the glue. We are in the darkness of the closed cover. This is the end. There are no names left to display. Entropy remains. The void remains. Dead stars and decaying atoms drift through the last silence. The universe is over, and yet something still persists. The faint residual hum of the Big Bang, vibrating like a ghost inside the dark. It is the last thing you will ever hear. It is the sound of nothingness breathing. The real problem was always us. We wanted the universe to be something else. We wanted it to be significant. We wanted it to be ours. But the universe is just itself. It is a process. It is a machine. It is a mathematics. It doesn't love us. It doesn't hate us. It simply outlasts us. It absorbs us. It erases us, and the great silence is its final honest answer to all our questions. Where is everybody? They are in the silence. What is our purpose? To be the silence. What comes after? Infinite silence. The hierarchy of reality has been collapsed. The meaning has been drained. The tension has been released. The pressure is equalized. The temperature is uniform. The universe is balanced. The universe is perfect. The universe is dead. And this is where the descent ends, not with a bang, but with a redshift, not with a shout, but with decay. Meaning fades into the background noise. The final image dissolves into obsidian. You are left with nothing but the weight of the insignificant now. The dread is complete. The collapse is total. The realization is permanent. You are beyond the universe now, and beyond is empty. As the last photon of this experience strikes your mind, remember that light is a lie. The darkness is the only thing that was ever real. The stars were just distractions. The planets were just obstacles. The civilizations were just interferences. The silence is the truth that was waiting for you all along. It was under your skin. It was behind your eyes. It was inside your soul. And now it is everywhere. You are part of the great silence now. You have contributed your complexity to the entropy. You have sacrificed your meaning to the mathematics. You have returned your atoms to the void. The project is complete. The cycle is closed. The reset is pending. The static is absolute. The zero is perfect. The end is here, but it goes deeper. No, it doesn't. There is no deeper. There is no more. There is only the silence. We have reached the bottom of the hole. We have exhausted the language. We have broken the logic. We have stretched the mind until it snapped. There is nothing left to say. There is nothing left to feel. There is nothing left to be. The universe doesn't care that you are reading this. It doesn't care that you are disturbed. It doesn't care that you want answers. It has given you the only answer it has. It has given you itself. And itself is nothing. Itself is distance. Itself is decay. Itself is the grave. We are lying in it now, looking up at the closed lid of the cosmic horizon, and the lid is heavy. The lid is obsidian. The lid is eternal. There is no resurrection in thermodynamics. There is no rebirth in expansion. There is only the long, cold, silent slide into the maximum state. We are there. We have arrived. The script is finished. The screen is black. The room is cold. The viewer is alone. The great silence is not a question anymore. It is your new name. It is your new identity. It is the only thing you have left. Wear it quietly. Wear it deeply. Wear it until the end. Because the end is not coming. The end is already here. It has always been here. It was waiting in the first microsecond. It was written in the first law. It was observed in the first light. We are beyond the universe. We are beyond meaning. We are beyond time. We are in the zero, and the zero is infinite. The zero is absolute. The zero is silent. The zero is you. The zero is us. The zero is everything. The zero is nothing. The zero is the final revelation. The zero is the psychological collapse. The zero is the cosmic horror. The zero is the end. Look into the darkness one last time. There is nothing to see. There is nothing to hear. There is nothing to know. There is only the silence, and the silence is everything, and everything is gone. The documentary is complete. The narrative is extinguished. The viewer is erased. The universe is silent. The great silence is total. The history of reality is finished. The final word is not a word. It is a breath, and the breath is cold, and the breath is over.